What started as reluctant cooperation turns into something more as Emma and Jack share a charged moment in the darkness, only to have their budding connection threatened by resurfacing doubts. Grab your thermal underwear, listeners, because this chapter is bringing both the frost and the friction. Chapter 5. 2 Steps Back. The generator hummed steadily in the background, a mechanical lullaby that had long since faded into white noise for Emma and Jack. They'd been trapped in the maintenance building for hours now, the storm outside showing no signs of abating.
I spy with my little eye.
Jack began for what felt like the 100th time.
Something beginning with B.
Emma groaned, letting her head fall back against the wall.
If it's Bolt again, I swear I'm going to stuff you in that toolbox.
Jack gasped in mock offense.
Dr. Rossi, I would never be so predictable. It's clearly boring, which is what you'll be if you don't guess correctly.
Despite herself, Emma laughed.
You're impossible.
Impossibly charming, you mean?
Jack winked, echoing his earlier comment. A comfortable silence fell between them, broken only by the generator's steady purr and the howling wind outside. Emma found her gaze drawn to Jack's profile, admiring the strong line of his jaw and the way his eyes crinkled at the corners when he smiled. As if sensing her attention, Jack turned to meet her gaze. For a moment, the air seemed to thicken with unspoken words and growing attraction. Jack cleared his throat.
So, think there might be another way out of here? Maybe a back door we missed?
Emma latched onto the suggestion, grateful for the distraction from her confusing feelings.
Worth a look. It's not like we have anything better to do.
They stood, stretching out muscles stiff from sitting on the hard floor. As they began to explore the dimly lit space, Emma couldn't help but be aware of Jack's presence behind her, his warmth radiating in the chilly air.
Watch your step.
Jack warned, gesturing to a cluster of tools scattered on the floor.
Wouldn't want our esteemed doctor to...
His words were cut short as Emma's foot hit a slick patch of oil. She yelped, arms pinwheeling as she lost her balance. In an instant, Jack was there, strong arms wrapping around her waist to steady her. Time seemed to slow as Emma found herself pressed against Jack's chest, her hands gripping his shoulders. She could feel the rapid beat of his heart, matching the frantic rhythm of her own.
You okay?
Jack asked, his voice low and husky. Emma looked up, suddenly breathless. Jack's face was inches from hers, his eyes dark with concern, and something else she couldn't quite name.
I'm fine.
She managed, but made no move to step away.
Thanks for the save.
Jack's lips quirked into a smile.
Anytime. Though I have to say, Dr. Rossi, for someone who patches up clumsy kids all day, you're not exactly graceful yourself.
The spell broken, Emma huffed and extricated herself from his arms, ignoring the little voice in her head that mourned the loss of contact.
I'll have you know I'm usually very coordinated,
she retorted, trying to ignore the heat she could feel rising in her cheeks.
It's not my fault your maintenance crew can't clean up after themselves.
Jack chuckled, running a hand through his hair in a way that was entirely too attractive for Emma's peace of mind.
Fair enough. Shall we continue our grand tour of Casa del Generator?
Emma swallowed hard, suddenly very aware of Jack's strong arms around her and the firm chest she was pressed against.
Yes, we should.
Jack released Emma, though she found herself wishing for one more second in his arms. As they resumed their exploration, the easy banter flowing between them once more, Emma found herself hyper-aware of Jack's proximity. The narrow space of the basement meant they were often brushing against each other as they moved around, each casual touch sending a little thrill through her. Their search for an alternative exit proved fruitless, and they eventually settled back down near the generator. Jack pulled out his phone, frowning at the screen.
Still no signal,
he muttered.
I hope the app team isn't freaking out. We were supposed to have a big conference call about the hospital pilot program tonight.
Emma felt a familiar pang of disappointment. Of course, even trapped in a snowstorm, Jack's mind was on his work.
I'm sure they'll understand,
she said, unable to keep a hint of coolness from her voice.
Acts of nature and all that.
Jack glanced up, catching the shift in her tone.
Everything okay?
Fine.
Emma shrugged, suddenly finding the zipper of her jacket fascinating.
It's just... never mind, it's not important.
No, tell me.
Jack insisted, turning to face her fully.
What's wrong?
Emma sighed, the words tumbling out before she could stop them.
It's just... Is that all you think about? Work? Even here, cut off from everything. You're worried about conference calls and pilot programs.
Jack blinked, taken aback.
It's important to me. This app could help a lot of kids.
I get that.
Emma said, frustration coloring her voice.
Believe me, I do. But there's more to life than work, Jack. When was the last time you did something just for fun? Something that wasn't about advancing your career or impressing investors?
The words hung in the air between them, heavy with implication. Jack's expression hardened, a wall coming down behind his eyes that Emma hadn't even realized had been lowered.
That's a bit rich coming from you, isn't it?
He said coolly.
You're hardly the poster child for cutting loose and having fun. From the moment you arrived, you've been nothing but reserved and uptight. At least I'm trying to connect with people to make a difference. You're just keeping everyone at arm's length.
Emma recoiled as if slapped.
Excuse me? Reserved and uptight? I'm sorry if I don't meet your standards of fun, Jack. Not all of us can be the life of the party, cracking jokes and pulling pranks. Some of us prefer meaningful connections over surface-level charm.
They glared at each other, the warmth of their earlier interactions evaporating like mist in sunlight. Emma couldn't believe how quickly things had soured. Just moments ago, she'd been contemplating kissing him, and now...
You know what?
Emma said, standing abruptly.
I think I need some space. I'm going to, count bolts or something. Enjoy your conference call planning.
As she stalked off to the far corner of the maintenance building, Emma felt a lump forming in her throat. She'd thought for a moment that maybe she and Jack could be something more. That maybe he could see past her carefully constructed walls and appreciate the person underneath. But now, as the generator droned on and the storm raged outside, Emma was painfully aware of the gulf between them. They were too different, their approaches to life and relationships seemingly incompatible. What had she been thinking, letting herself get caught up in a holiday romance? Across the room, Jack watched Emma's retreating back, a mixture of frustration and regret swirling in his chest. He'd thought they were connecting, that maybe Emma was someone who could challenge him, make him want to be better. But clearly he'd been mistaken. Her cool exterior was more than just a facade. It was a fundamental part of who she was. As he turned back to his phone, trying in vain to get a signal, Jack couldn't help but feel that something precious had slipped through his fingers before he'd even realized he was holding it. The generator's hum filled the silence between them, a mechanical reminder of the spark they'd shared and the chasm that now separated them.